So, Phil, Sacred Torch, awesome event. I had so much fun.
Yeah, we have to try and get the Sacred Torch to just operate a large monthly at that venue because it was great.
I tell you, coming back up to New York, probably the first time I've really been up there for more than a quick stop in half a decade now. Jeez, God, I miss New York. I miss the people that we know that are in the community. The food. Obviously, you live right near where I used to live in Brooklyn, so it was nice to get in with my wife and like go see a couple of spots that we used to go to and stuff. But beyond the microcosm of New York that I experienced, it just seems like things are so much better organized for competitive play or for community play in the city, which is wild because it's very expensive to have a space like Hex and Co. run, but they did such a good job.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show like the benefits that you have if your way of making money is not just gaming, but in fact booze
Yeah.
and food.
Yeah, it was nice to just like sit down, have have a couple of drinks, play some pre-modern, chit chat with people, and not feel like hey, we got to speed this up because the next thing's coming, and or like people want to go home. And, like it was a nice like full day event, and everything just felt like casual, not too rushed. A really fun time, and everybody felt like they wanted to be there, which is great. Staff
hmm
included, like
hmm
everyone just felt like they were having a good time, and this goes beyond just our experience with the tournament. This was just Hexenco was such a breath of fresh air when it comes to like what I think is capable of a gaming space.
Yeah, totally. Everything like the fact that the venue held what was it, 83 people showed up to Sacred Torch. Congrats to the organizers and all that. Shout out to Phil Wynn for
Hell yeah.
just giving us all that information in the banding. Sign up for his newsletter, MTG Banding, if you want to get the breakdown on everything that happened at Sacred Torch. It was awesome. Everything about the event was great. It was nice that it was a 7-round event. It didn't feel like it was too much Magic, and I would know because I played every minute of every round.
Yeah.
Zach top 30.
I did. I top 32'd, which is that's
What did you?
a
What was your
winning
final
record.
placing?
I was 22nd.
22nd with Browse, Soldevi Digger,
Yeah.
control.
Counter
Dude,
Phoenix.
I knew that Zach was in good position a lot of the time when he was explaining to his opponent what Jester's Cap did. So let it be known that Zach was winning games via Jester's Cap, or supposedly his opponents didn't know that they had lost the game yet, but Zach knew exactly the contents of their deck and how they would not be able to beat him.
Yeah, there was Jester's Cap was very, very good against a lot of decks. Like hitting somebody with a Jester's Cap when they only play like a few win conditions, and then being like, well, now I only have to worry about countering the win conditions you have left, or just knowing that like, oh, you have no more disenchants. My lock is like impossible for you to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, breaking down our decks, I think it was really cool to like go out afterwards and mad props to my wife who sat through us going over our decks during dinner afterwards. But I think we really broke through with like a new build for each of our respective decks, and sort of came up with some new technology for the format. So I'm excited to like go through some gameplay and stuff with that stuff. I don't want to spoil it just yet because we're still brewing and working on it. But there's I think we've unlocked some new design space for decks in Premodern. This episode of Eternal Durdles is sponsored by CardMill, the first automated scanner and sorter built specifically for trading card game players. With its intentionally compact design, CardMill uses AI-powered recognition to identify each card and sync inventory with real-time pricing, batching up to 300 cards at a time by name, set, color, or type. Collection data is securely stored in the CardMill network, giving players full access to their cards through an easy-to-use web portal. CardMill supports Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood, Disney Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, and many more to come. Created by software engineer and longtime Magic the Gathering player Jonathan Dumanis, CardMill launches on July 22nd on Kickstarter with early bird pricing starting at $350. Backers receive lifetime access to all software updates and new features. Go to cardmill.com to learn more and reserve your path to the future of card sorting.
Yeah, what would you say is your build around card these days?
I think
Glaciers.
it's Shard Phoenix.
Shard Phoenix. Zach's been high on Shard Phoenix. I've been high on Intuition Piles. We're just we're all trying to make magic happen. I intuitioned a lot in a bunch of different ways, and it was a lot of fun. I turned Intuition for 2 and a blue Stone Rain by getting 3 Wastelands. I turned it 2 and a blue counterspell by getting foil. I protected myself against Armageddon by tutoring up 3 Gush and gushing back in response. Obviously, the classic go-tos for Intuition for AK or Intuition for Gaia's Blessing, anything else, and then cycling my graveyard back in. And that was just the start. Now we're on to a whole new bit of tech that you'll see in gameplay.
Yeah. I'm excited to mess around. Like the deck I played, we're playing Browse, we're playing Saldevi Digger, so you need to have those on the board. So I had to skew Navindral's disc off of the original list that I was playing, which was the mono red list that I initially played, and then converted that to blue to solve some problems. And now I'm looking at some different ways to gain card advantage without having to have permanents on the board, which is interesting because that allows you to do things like play Navindral's disc, play like I've been looking at like Pernicious Deed, stuff like that, trying to come up with these other control pile strategies, because like it would be interesting to see what you can do with this format that's not just the stock list that everyone's playing. And look, the stock lists are good. Like, Dave Kaplan, hats off to Dave Kaplan. He won with Dreadnought, the deck to worry about in the format, right?
I would say we were looking at the top 8 though, like, and we can break down the top 8 a little bit, but like this was Terravor's event. Like the most prominent card in this top 8 was Terravor.
Yeah. It's funny because Terravor was a card that I didn't really pay too much mind to, but the times that my opponents played them, I had out Phyrexian Furnace, a card that we have been saying is undervalued, and Phyrexian Furnace, just over the course of turns, like until someone gets out their Terravor, you're just hitting a land every turn, hitting a land every turn, hitting a land, like just the virtue of that's what that deck wants to do. I slice and dice a Terravor out of the game because it was a 1/1. I probably could have waited a turn and got rid of the other land, but I was like, I want to keep this. I want to keep the Phyrexian Furnace in play, so I didn't decide to pay the 1. I just was like, I'll slice and dice, gain a card.
Dude, one of my favorite plays on the day was against an opposing Terravor. I just Gaia's Blessing the 3 lands that were in graveyards away, so I got to kill their Terravor draw card. That felt great.
That's amazing play. Yeah,
that felt delightful.
Your opponent forgets that they can be targeted with Gaia's Blessing.
That was exceptionally an enjoyable experience, and one that I had not thought about when I was considering how many Gaia's Blessings to play.
It's like Lodestone Bobble, but like you're just making their deck thicker. Like full of bad cards that they probably don't want to see, right?
Yep. And I have been the actual solve might just be Phyrexian Dreadnought, but rather than be
Phyrexian Furnace.
No, I mean for like the fact that Dreadnought won the event.
Oh yeah.
Dreadnought won the event, and so like the crux that I've been trying to pursue in Premodern is trying to figure out how to make a heavy gush, heavy foil deck work in a world that isn't just Dreadnought. Like I would like to play like my control strategy. I don't like having to go all in on the Dreadnought. I always feel naked when I do it, even if like it is just a quick turn and a half clock. And so like trying to figure out how to make islands work while also doing other things. Like essentially like your bottleneck is that every island that you don't put into play, or every island that's not in your hand, is a chokehold on your gush and your foil. And trying to solve the problem of I want to be a multiple color mono blue deck has just been a continuous and intriguing puzzle that has yet to be solved. And man, Sacred Torch was just like it was a continuation of Lobstercon. It was just like the puzzle is alive and well. And at the end of it, I was like at dinner, I was like, Zach, what about this card? What about this card? What about this card? What about this card? Fortunately, our buddy Adam was we had to go back down to Brooklyn, so didn't join us for dinner. But he would have heard all of the different suggestions and been like, Phil, please, dude, just please,
somebody stop me.
Yeah, I would have had the green mask on, and it would have been the whole deal.
Finding the right high-end cards for legacy, vintage, pre-modern, or old-school Magic can be challenging. That's where our friends 3-for-1 Trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or €500, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the legacy community. Now back to the show.
Yeah. So let's quick go over
Let's go over it.
because we're going to talk about our decks a little later on, but let's just quick talk about our matchups. So I'm just going to run down all 7 of mine real fast, and then you run down all 7 of yours, and then we'll talk about round 1, round 2, we're going to like that real fast. So I played Landstill Clerics, like a green-white mid-range deck that was, I don't know, I don't have a real good list for that. Oath, Panza, Clerics, Psychotog, and Oath again.
Yeah. And which matchups did you find were the like actual troublesome ones where you were like, oh, if I had like more reps against this matchup, I maybe would have been able to solve it? Which matchups felt entirely unwinnable? Like, did you feel overprepared for some things, underprepared for other things? Like, where do you think you like fell? Because you were the only person playing your type of list. Like, if you look at the top lists, like you're the first Mountain that shows up. Like, Mountain did not have a good event. Like, whether it didn't show up all that much, but like there was
Hold
not
it down
burn
for
to be
red
seen.
decks, people.
Yeah. It was just like it was just like a lot of like green based like Sylvan Library, Mox Diamond, Terravore decks, and then of course there was the Dreadnought decks. Standstill had its like stronghold of people who did well, but then when it comes down to like where is the first like brew, like it's really where you were at in 22nd. I mean, assuming that you don't look at Mono Black as a brew, is like. Clerics did really well at LobsterCon, so like Jeff Ferris, I feel like put that deck on the map. I'm sure he had his Cabal, for lack of a better word, leaning into the Clerics deal that helped work on that deck. If not, like,
Is there a better word than Cabal?
Yeah,
I don't think there is.
Jeff was the first person that I saw with that list because he brought it to a monthly like event in Manhattan, and then did really well with it at LobsterCon for what it was. Like when everybody was like, "Yeah, Swamp is not very good," he was like, "How about I play all the Swamps?" And then you ran into it twice. Maybe you ran into the only both players that were there.
In the second round and in the 5th round. And
yeah.
I was I'd say those were some of my toughest matches. I was very fortunate in the first match that I had Bolt with Pyroclasm backed up in my opener both times. And then in the second match, I just didn't have those. And I got incredibly lucky with a very weird game 2. My opponent and I were just sitting there like kind of laughing at the board state because like he drew a ton of discard and I drew a ton of lands. And I had an opener that was just one card. It was Lava Dart and 6 lands. I was like, I've got the Thawing Glaciers. I'm going to just try and draw myself out of problems. I think this is fine, which, maybe not the most defensible idea, but I was like, if I mull too far, I'm going to get duressed out of the game. So I'm just like, I'll just play this and try and like draw myself out of it. And luckily my opponent didn't draw any gas and drew all discarded. So I won that way, but it was a very weird game.
So just going up some virtual card advantage.
Yeah. I'd say the deck that I was the least prepared for was Landstill, which top 8'd. My first round opponent top 8'd.
Yeah,
so there was
what,
awesome.
2 Landstill players in the top 8?
I think so. Yeah, Andy was my first round opponent, and there were 2 very tight, like very close games. I went 2-1 there. I forget. It was the first round of the day, so I forget what my big how I got the first game, but the first win that I got on the day. But yeah. 1-2. I had to fight for that one. I almost won because if I'd have gotten, so I cast Jester's Cap, and that was going to take the other threats out of his deck because I had killed all of his lands, all of the man lands, but then I didn't get to use the cap, so it got disenchanted, and I would have taken out the other 2 cards in his deck that he could have used to kill me, and then he drew 1 and killed me. So the green-white mid-range deck was a little weird. That was like, what's the card that you discard 2 cards and it vanishes for a turn? It's a 3/4.
Oh yeah, it's green-white. It's like I know the card you're talking about. Yeah. It's a 3/4 for 1 green-white, and you can discard 2 cards to phase it or something, right?
Blink it, yeah. So that was very hard for me to deal with, and I won the first game by doing the cap. No, actually by capsizing my opponent out of the first game. And then the second game, I was using capsize reliably to do sort of the same thing. But my opponent eventually got out that frog, and it was very hard for me to deal with because I can't target it with anything. He just discards 2 cards and gets rid of it. I'm literally putting cards back in his hand every turn, so he's always got fuel for that. So I took 20-something damage with that thing, and then I started blocking. Got swords. I went down to 1 life, and I had a slice and dice in my hand. I was like, slice and dice, drew the bolted, and we were in turns at that point. So that was his turn, 2. That was turn 2 of turns. Then I got my turn, and I was like, okay, like I guess I just on their turn I'm gonna have to use the capsize on their frog, and then when they attack, and then that's it. I'll win, and that's what happened. So very like and we drew. So luckily I'd won the first game. The Oath decks were crazy. It was crazy. The Terravore decks I didn't really have that much of a problem with. Now Luis Neiman, who I played in the last round, he got really mana screwed against me, and I didn't help by like my opener was like 2 pillages and 3 wastelands. And so I kept him off of lands for almost the entire last game that we played. But the second game, I think I did a pretty good job of making his graveyard irrelevant. And then I was able to do the same plan because he was relying on his Mox diamonds, and I was able to just get rid of a Mox diamond with a pillage. And then he was sort of mana stumbled for the turn. So by the time he had gotten back into the game, I had built up. And I think I had browse out and stuff, and I was able to just like kind of outcard him. The actual hardest matchup of the day was, what's funny is I played Adam in round 6, and it was Psychotog versus my deck, and you would think my deck would be pretty okay against Psychotog because I'm playing 4 powder kegs, so it's like there's an easy way, like just get a powder keg on the board and set it on 3 and like forget it. I never saw a powder keg, so kind of got me there.
To be fair, it wouldn't have worked anyway. Adam has thought about every possible iteration of experience that his deck could possibly run into and has a plan for it. There's no way your powder kegs 1 through 4 would have done the trick.
That first game came down to I was out carding him. I had to browse out. I was doing the browse thing. I had just gotten rid of some stuff with. I think I had gotten rid of like some counter spells or something with Cap. Or maybe he'd countered my Cap. There's a Cap on the top of my graveyard, and I was browsing to try and find the Digger. I found the Digger. Yeah. There's 1 card left on my deck, and he duressed the Digger, and I had already gotten rid of the other Digger, and I was like, okay, I lose.
Yeah.
Game 1. Game 2 was just he had out 2 Psychotogs, and I just didn't have any way to deal with them, and I kept drawing Tormod's Crypts, and I had Phyrexian Furnace, but it was kind of like not enough. I just got ticked away. And that's the deck that deck is also kind of a control deck, and then it just was like these are the threats I have. I'm gonna win with those. So I don't know. I think that I could sit here and try and like build a deck that beats Psychotog, but I don't think that's like it's not the meta choice. I think I would have done great had I played against any of the Dreadnought decks. I was kind of prepared for Dreadnought specifically, but it just never materialized against me. Obviously, the Cleric deck is a tough matchup, but certainly winnable. Obviously, and the that one creature, that green-white creature, was the one that was like toughest for me to deal with.
The green-white. I forget what the name is, but you'll pop it up on the screen. Yeah. But what was the? Do you? What were the soft? What are the things essentially that you were looking at, cutting and or changing and or swapping in your list? Because you played a Browseful Devi Digger deck, which was an inspiration from seeing it like from way back when, and
Duelist magazine article.
Duelist magazine article, like your Duelist magazine inspired deck came in, and what was your overall record?
4-3.
4-3 on more or less like a very early tested version of this build, right? Like you didn't get like the 100 rep matches in that we like do for Eternal Weekend, like not even close, right? But you still like you broke even, and then you came in 22nd place, and it's like if you had just like refined the deck a little bit and converted one more win, maybe 2 more wins, like you're punching into a top 16, and then with the top decks with something that nobody is prepared for. So like if anybody was interested in trying Phoenix or trying anything else, like aside from me constantly urging you to play 4 Thawing Glaciers and you telling me that it's still incorrect, what are the other options that you're looking at as like you venture forth? Like, are you thinking you're going to stick to this list?
I'm going to stick close to this list, but I think so what I came out of the day realizing is that the deck needs impulse. Like the only selection I'm playing was Browse. So I was like, okay, I'm going to cut like a card here or there and figure out like, do I need 3 pillages? Can I get away with 2 pillage? Do I need 2 overload main? Can I move the overload to the sideboard? Can I play like impulses there? Can I cut a bolt? Can I, like just trying to nudge cards here and there to see if I could make this work. And I realized that like, with Browse being the only card that's really doing any of these selections, doing a lot of the lifting. So I need impulse. 1. So impulse as a 4 of is kind of a must for this deck. I think that's a non-issue, a non-argument. Then I really want to add So I'd like to be able to deal with permanents that are larger than like one enchantments. I'd like to be able to deal with, but then permanents that are like larger than a lightning bolt. It's kind of tough to deal with those. So I wanted to play Disc again, which was a nod back to the big red, the Raging Glaciers deck, right? It played those. Um, if I want to do that, then that means I can't be playing Browse and I can't be playing Salt Heavy Digger because I'm gonna blow those up, right?
Mhm.
So then I was looking at what you were talking about, and with the Intuition Guy's Blessing package, I was like, okay, if I put like one Forest in my deck and change my mana base a little bit, I can still play Thawing Glaciers because I want Thawing Glaciers in the deck, right? I want the Phoenixes. So I can reasonably cast a Gaia's Blessing if I had one in my hand by just having one Forest in my deck and probably some number of, like Treva's Citadel or Lair, whatever those Lair
Traver's
lands are,
Ruins, yeah.
right? Something like that. And then maybe I go for like a Grand Coliseum Reflecting Pool like mana base as well. Still keeping in some number of Wastelands is also a Dust Bowl. Like I want to have 4 land destruction lands in my deck. As they were really good over the course of the day, either as a utility card to get rid of a man land or just to be like, here's your mana base, I'm screwing it. So there's that. But then the other thing that I'm looking at is like, okay, so if I'm playing, cards that that I have to get rid of, right? Like the Phyrexian Furnace, I think stays. That card was amazing, and at least I can sack it if it's going to blow up. But I think the card that will solve that problem is actually, and this is going to sound nuts, Whispers of the Muse. And the reason why I think Whispers of the Muse is great is because it's a constant card value engine. It doesn't matter if your opponent counters it. I wanted to play 3, and this is kind of what we talked out at the restaurant. I wanted to play 3 initially because the first 2 you just cast, you just like cycle, right? And that's what I was kind of explaining to you why I needed 3, and you were like, well, if you're playing the Gaia's Blessing Intuition package, it doesn't matter. It's going to go back in your deck eventually. You'll get it when you need it to start using it as a value draw card, especially with the impulses and stuff as well.
Yeah, I was positioning. You were like, I think you want 3, and I was like, well, if the only way that you want to maximize it, like if you're looking for just better selection as opposed to Xeroxing, like any cantrip that like an Opt, a Sleight of Hand, a Portent, like any of that stuff in your deck, you're playing a lot of sorcery speed stuff, so Portent doesn't seem all that great. But like Sleight of Hand just seems like, okay, if you're gonna play the 1 mana cantrip like that, or even if you're playing at instant speed, like Opt is the better selection piece. So like if you did like 2 Opt and the Whispers, because in my head I'm thinking, well, if you're going to have access to your deck infinite times, then think of Whispers of the Muse as essentially a 6-drop that just isn't dead if you draw it. And so like at that point it's like, well, you never really then want to draw it until you've maximized it, which is when you are at the position where you can start buying it back. And so like if you're going to play any number above 1, then you really just have to be like, okay, at what point am I shaving lands to try and like optimize having more whispers and more cantripy type stuff. But if you're not like, it just seems like the rationale for 3 as opposed to going 2-1 split for better selection, when the actual payoff is when you have 6 mana, is I lean in that direction. But I also have done no testing on it, so like in my head, it just makes more sense that if you're allocating 3 slots, that you would maximize the amount of selection you can get in those 3 slots, and then still get the whispers package at the back end.
Since you're enjoying the show, please like and subscribe the video. It helps the channel grow.
Support Eternal Dodos on Patreon so we can create even more content and cover events.
Patreon supporters get an ad-free RSS feed. You can even join our deck donation tier to get your very own episode.
Join the Doodle Maniacs at patreon.com/eternaldoodles. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think so. Playing one Whispers as opposed to 3 was a big like, aha revelation moment, right? The Intuition package, I think is great because that does allow me to do a little bit of selection or do like, kind of a gifts ungiven kind of situation for my opponent to be like, all of these cards will screw you. Which ones do you want to be screwed by? To that end, I start to wonder if I want to play like some funky one-ofs in the deck. Like I don't necessarily have to play 4 discs if I'm playing 2 to 3 powder kegs as well. I could play 3 and 2 and then be like, here's a Wrath of God, here's an Earthquake, that sort of thing. So that like, and because those infinitely cycle into the deck, it comes down to like, how do I make this mana base work with Thawing Glaciers? And I think that's going to be the real tester of this deck. The real like that's the stretching point of this deck is, can we make Thawing Glaciers, which is a value engine in this deck and very much worth playing, can we make that work for the rest of the deck, especially if we want to play like 4 or 5 colors? I thought about also like dipping into black for lobotomy, and I kind of forgot that lobotomy isn't exactly the same thing as a Jester's Cap.
Yeah,
But
no,
then I
it's worse,
thought,
but yeah.
yeah, what I thought was, what if I play like extract and just be like, I can at least extract people over and over again. It's fine. It's not as impactful as Cap, because Cap can be game lights out in
Bro,
one
you
sway.
don't got to convince me on extract. I'm sold.
I think I still want to play Cap, because Cap is a card that, like, it's a 6-mana sorcery. That's how you have to read Cap. This is a 6-mana sorcery that says when it resolves, some number of decks just lose the game.
The also inherent power of extracted, I think the thing that is not obvious at first glance is that if you're playing in a world where you've just done your homework and know most of the deck lists, now of course there's a ton of variety in deck lists, but like not for the main things, right? Like if you're playing against a Terravore deck, it's probably the odds are that they have 4 Terravores. If you're playing against a Meddling Mage deck, they're probably gonna have 4 Meddling Mage. If you're playing against Replenish, that list has been more or less stock figured out. If you're playing against Dreadnought, that's more or less been stock figured out, or optimized. So like when you extract somebody, you can mostly deduce their hand by looking at their deck.
I will say this, Phil, you just reminded me of another reason why this deck rules, and it won't be this way forever if it becomes good. But every time someone tried to like play Meddling Mage, they didn't name a card.
Yeah,
in my
what
deck.
do you do? Right.
Like they're like, I guess this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I won't cast that. You got it.
Yeah,
I'll never cast that
card.
card.
Yeah. I mean, the trade off is it's a 2/2, which is on par with the power level of the format. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. I was like, okay, Shard Phoenix.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'll just get rid of it, right? And so that was cool. Being a relative unknown as far as your deck is concerned was really cool. And like enough people watch our content that like if you were paying attention specifically to me, sure you could know my deck, but like I'm not that important, no one's just like, ooh, this guy's the flavor maker of the format, So like
you're making me think of other things of like all the weird stuff that your deck could do. And it's like, bro, if you want to send them into the Shadow Realm, you have infinite Phoenixes, dude.
Yeah, well, there's that. So the other thing I was thinking about, Phil, as far as like if I wanted to splash into black, is there's Undermine. And Undermine, back in the day, the deck that like got people was Undermine.
Explain what that does.
So Undermine is just a counterspell for 2 blue and a black, and target opponent loses 3 life on top of being a counterspell.
But it's 4 mana, right?
3 mana.
Oh, it's blue, black?
Blue, black.
I thought it was 1 blue, black.
Nope. Blue, black. There's a red one that does that, but it like bolts a creature, but there has to be a creature on board to bolt.
Right,
too.
yeah, exactly.
So that's really tough. If it was a May, that like might be worth playing. It might actually be 3, but like the problem with that is that like there's got to be something on the board. Not always where you are when something gets cast.
Yeah.
But if you
Undermine as a kill condition is so sweet. Just like we
Undermines,
will play until you let me kill you.
Yeah, well, play 4 Undermines, play 4 bolts, right? Like your opponent eventually does have to cast something, right? So then you've got this inevitability locked in the deck, and a lot of times, so the against the Oath decks, I didn't even mention this. A lot of times the Oath decks were like, you're a control deck. I do not respect my own life total. I'm going to draw 3 extra cards with Sylvan Library, and I was like, thank you, bolt. Over the course of the game, I just like, okay, like I'll attack in with my manland, and now you're at 6, bolt. So that was an interesting thing too, because like you see a deck like this and you don't think like, oh, they're playing a ton of burn, and I'm not playing a ton of burn, but I am playing enough burn that like if you don't respect your life total against me, I'll just go in.
Dude, it's super interesting to like the crux of like where the notion of like if you're playing a deck that theoretically goes forever because you're on the Gaia's Blessing package, then like, okay, what is the leanest way to actually kill? And it's like if you just like had your deck be like nothing but ways to like stop your opponent from killing you, and then you just happen to have bolts, and bolts being one of the best moto spells ever, just was like, oh yeah, eventually enough bolts will hit the stack that you will just fold to it.
So also Nether Spirit is another creature that like you can just have one in your deck, and once you find it, it comes back. And as long as your opponent's not disrupting your graveyard, it just keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and eventually you're just going to get there with a Nether Spirit as a 2/2. You're going to wipe the board enough times.
You know another card that goes infinite and can never get removed?
Shard Phoenix?
You ever read Mindless Automaton, my guy?
Mindless automaton. Get out of here.
You ever read it, my guy?
I have read it. It's a 4-mana 0/0 that comes with 2 counters, and you can sacrifice the counters.
You
to
can remove
draw...
2 counters to draw a card, and then
Yeah.
you can pay. You can pay a mana and discard a card to put a counter on it.
Okay, so every 2 cards becomes 1 card.
Every 2 cards and 2 mana becomes 1 card, but also in response to a removal spell, you always go up the card because it comes in with the 2 counters to begin with.
Yeah.
And so you always can remove those 2 counters. But it's also got that Psychotog effect going on,
Sure.
where it's like it can stonewall the opponent because they're like, all right, well, this person's holding up mana and has cards in hand, and I can't necessarily attack in because then the Mindless Automaton's going to get me. But if I try and remove the Mindless Automaton, then I can draw cards. I'm just saying, dude.
I don't want to turn on my removal. Like, Shard Phoenix has been good because it literally, like, it's a flyer that can block flyers and it can shoot ground guys too. So it has more utility than just like, hey, I have a 2/2 that you can't remove with Swords to Plowshares.
Bro, this is not a replacement suggestion. This is additive.
Hey, okay.
We're
now
additive
I'm a creature
here.
deck. What do I like? The deck is already. It's so hard to figure out exactly what I want to take out of this deck. And we have Phil. I'm gonna share this on screen because I have it somewhere. Yeah,
Zach.
So
we have been talking about ways that we can just convert rectangles into advantage with all the squeeze that we could be putting in our deck. And you can actually cast Squee, but you can discard Squee to Mindless Automaton, my guy. Think about it.
Eternal Dirtles is proud to be sponsored by Moxfield. Moxfield is the best Magic the Gathering deck building website on the internet. You can create, share, and find decks from Commander to Legacy and even fan-supported formats like Premodern and Old School. You can see all of our decks on our Moxfield. Follow the links below to stay tuned. Yeah, I'm going to find this old... Let's see, I got to go to Old Premodern. And 4-color control, non-white 4-color control. Let's look at this deck real fast, Phil, because I think you'll be intrigued by this. We're gonna cut this in like 5 minutes, but I just want to show this deck to you real fast, getting the stacks together for it, and then I'm gonna share the deck. This deck is a few years old, but I think that what you're gonna see here is there's some stuff in place that this would make sense. So you can see what I'm doing here, right?
We just got to also point out that you are in, a blue-red deck. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying that Didgeridoo Minotaurs is also a blue-red deck. Just throwing it out.
It's true.
Put it out there. You gotta have it on your radar.
Let's quick look at this deck, Phil. I'm playing 2 Morphlings. I think I would trade those for Phoenixes now. There's a Masticore, a couple Duress. There's the Gaia's Blessings, 4 counterspells, 4 Pernicious Deeds, 1 Croson Charm, 4 Factor Fiction, Fire and Ice, Impulse, Lightning Bolt, Terminate, Undermine, right? The mana base is kind of whatever. The sideboard,
the mana you just said every card that has every color pip known to man.
Yeah,
and then you said the mana base is whatever.
There's no white cards in this deck.
Yeah, because how could we possibly do anything? Like this deck is already never going to be able to cast any of its spells. How could it possibly?
I'm not gonna lie. I played this deck for a little while, and the mana base was fine. It was just that the decks at the time, this might actually be good now, but the decks at the time could out control it,
bro.
Because this is the deck not playing Mana Leak, right? You're playing Undermine instead of Mana Leak.
Dude, how are we not? We got to just be on. Give me all these fetch lands, bro. All the fetches. You're at Grixis Splash Green deck. You got those Grixis fetchies, bro. Get those fetchies in there.
The Grixis fetches. What are you talking about?
You got Polluted Delta and Bloodstained Mire, my guy.
Oh no. There are 3 Polluted Delta in here, but you don't need to like have all the polluted. Like otherwise, you have to start adding more basics to the deck. You're playing Grand Coliseum and Reflecting Pool.
Yeah, Grand Coliseum Reflecting Pool needs more exploration.
Yeah, that's a
sweet.
fine. I think that's a fine control piece. This deck, I think, works against like the Fire Ice is actually kind of intriguing because it's another spell that can shoot guys down, which is interesting. This deck just needs, I guess, Pernicious Deed is what it's doing to like wipe the board, but it needs like an Earthquake or something. I feel like you also need ways like I stress this because I just can't figure out a way to do it. These decks need a way to gain a little bit of life. Like, and that's just not happening here. Like, you could cast Absorb, Absorb's great, but this deck isn't doing that.
Gain life, dude. If you want to go forever, just instead of your Morphlings, play Your Ravenous Balos, that can never be removed by removal either, because you just gain the life.
Sure.
Gain that life, homie.
Well, the problem with Ravenous Baloth is 1, 2 pips in the off color, right? But beyond that, I think I would rather have the Phoenix. Like, Morphling is not good enough in this format, I don't think. Shard Phoenix is only good enough because it can infinitely block anything, right? That's not like a trample creature. And then on top of that, it does act as a board wipe as well. So against some decks, it just lights out.
I get that it can't hit a flower, but you know what else infinitely blocks that?
I don't know what.
My homie Squee, bro. We got to figure out how to make Squee work.
You can
in
put Squee into
2025.
this deck. Like, this is not the deck I would play. This is a interesting spot for inspiration. A deck that I saw a long time ago, because there were the 4-color white control decks. I'm going to show you that one real fast too. This was the original like 4-color white control deck. We'll put that up real fast. So we're rocking Blaze as our finisher. We've got
Blaze, dude.
Decree.
Go back to Blaze. Read Blaze real quick, because that's sweet.
Blaze deals X damage to any one creature or player.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. We got the Guy's Blessings again. Wrath of God. Absorb. So now you're getting your life gain, right? You got 1 humility. Rockin' Swords to Plowshares. Wow, that's the worst possible choice for Swords to Plowshares. Here's another card I've been looking at is Renewed Faith. Like, I could see throwing that as a one-of into this pile too. A miscalculation. Whatever, I guess. You've got the Impulses, the Fire Ice again, Factor Fiction. I think you could trade these Factor Fiction for something better, honestly. I think, like, this particular slot could be Whispers of the Muse. But this deck is not playing, like, a Disc or Pernicious Deed. You've got Powder Keg in the board. You've got a Cap in the board. But you're not playing any way to, like, recur. I guess you are playing a way to recur with the Gaia's Blessings. Yeah. I don't know. This is an interesting place to start with too. Of course, we have the Grand Coliseum, City of Brass, Reflecting Pool, Mana Base here as well. A lot of Pain lands. Reflecting Pool is doing a lot of lifting in a deck like this. That's why you need to, like, a deck like this needs Absorb, because you're going to take damage playing these cards.
Yeah. I don't know the solution, because I do more losing than I do winning in this format. But let me tell you, the puzzle is sweet, and I'm just thinking
sweet. It is a sweet puzzle to solve. I'm
thinking, if we were to just, before we sign off, just like as you're looking at stuff like this, just be like, okay, what's the pre-modern power level thing to do, my guy?
Yeah, ABC deck building, brought to you by Order of the Sacred Torch. Anyhow,
there's so many ideas, so much left to explore. I can't wait for the next pre-modern event, dude. You got to come back.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Again, hats off to the people at Hex & Co. and, of course, the Order of the Sacred Torch for running an awesome event. We'll get to catch you later. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button.
You can also support us on patreon.com/eternaldurdles, which now offers the new deck donation tier.
During July, the deck donation patrons will get a 2-for-1 special where both Phil and I will run your deck through a league.
I'll play literally whatever you want.
So brew your spiciest or stock us up with a stock list.
I'll literally play whatever you want.
Thanks for watching.